Hello, everyone. So we're on to the next Tom Clancy book. This is the one that comes in the storyline order after Hunt for Red October. It's this book, Red Winter by Marc Cameron. It was actually written after Tom Clancy passed away, so it's not based on real events. I don't think it's anything Tom Clancy left notes behind on. Hey, here's a story idea. I think it just is one that Mark came up with. But it's got your typical cast of characters. You got Jack Ryan early on in his career because this is set in 1985. It's right after the events of Hunt for Red October and right before the events of Cardinal the Kremlin. You've got Jim Greer, you've got John Clark, you've got Ed Foley, Pat Foley, you've got all the nice characters that Tom Clancy set us up with, which makes it kind of an interesting story because you get a lot of history now to pull from because you're on, a couple books in, these characters and everybody's read them. Mark does a very good job of keeping true to the characters themselves, but it's not based on real events, at least as far as anyone will admit. You never know. It is another defection story, so Patriot Games had one that really helped. You had Red October was, of course, a big defector story. This book opens up with one, so it's sort of going back to the same intel agency sort of thing. But there's a lot more to the story than that. It does, and like I said, it's not written by Clancy, but it does keep Jack Ryan as that sort of ultimate family man, workaholic, world's most guy who literally has the world's most understanding wife, like on the planet, when it comes to him and his work. Now, the thing about this one that gets me is it was written in 2022 about events in 1985. So all of the intel agency capabilities, all the military capabilities are all pretty well known by that point, right? So this 85 tech being discussed, 37 years later, no big surprises, right? So a lot of the Clancy books for when they were written, you're kind of like, how did he figure that out? Right? How did he kind of put all that together and go, holy, there it is, right? Well, this one's there's no real surprises, so that's kind of out there, but it is written in a world where no one really knows anything about the F-117 yet. It's still a secret. It's still sort of that thing off in the desert that nobody talks about, and all the secrecy around it that took place. It of course they keep it in a base out in New Mexico that might be referred to casually by most people as Area 51. We have the strange thing flying in and out of it at night. People watching all the time. This thing has to go in and out of there in secret. So of course, it only flies at night. It's painted black. They even go so far as to describe the way the ground crew had to behave as the stealth was coming in and out. It's like, okay, ground crew, thank you for your work. Now lay down on the ground, face the other direction, close your eyes. There's a plane that's going to come out and taxi by you. You can't see it, right? So they literally got that detailed on, their author got that detailed on sort of behavior of the stealth, which if this book had come out in like 85, or after the stealth was admitted to be the stealth, which wasn't long after that at all. It might not even been a secret in 85 still, but anyway, had this book come out right after the announcement of the stealth, the conspiracy theorists would have gone nuts. And I'm surprised the alien conspiracy theorists haven't picked up on this one yet. Like, oh, what are they trying to cover up? Now, of course, all this is fun and games, and all the information on the stealth is tightly held until they took one out for a training flight, and it crashed into the ground. Well, pretty hard to keep an airplane crash secret when it doesn't happen on a government installation because, oddly enough, Air Force bases are only so big. So when you want to train, you got to take it out other places, and sure enough, they did, and one came out of the sky. Of course, as it crashes, people are all over it because it's New Mexico, and you got people who like to watch Area 51. You got alien watchers. You've got all kinds of folks out there, and people live there. But you see an airplane crash, you go investigate. That's what you do. Now you got all these pieces that are triangles and odd shapes for a plane. This thing doesn't look like a plane at all. What is this, right? Is it alien or is it not? And of course, because it's Area 51 and it's known to be a secret military base, of course, there's spies that live around that. And you have to ask yourself, oh, is that really realistic, right? Well, when I worked in defense, there was occasionally I'd go in and out of different government offices. It is no big secret. This has been around for a long time. For a while, where the DARPA offices were, which is some of the most intense research on in the defense industry in the country, and I did some work for them over the years. There was a Starbucks right across the street, and there was this joke that, hey, if you want to go see what a spy looks like, just go into the Starbucks anytime it's open, because the Starbucks is right at the top of the subway stop right before DARPA. So anybody going to have a meeting at DARPA is stopping in Starbucks first. And you never know what you might pick up in a casual conversation. So there was probably a spy in there, a lot. Um, there was also a restaurant in Washington, D.C. that was owned by the Chinese government. All had fairly young, fairly attractive people working at it as waiters and waitresses, all of whom were Chinese, of Chinese birth, all of whom spoke fluent Chinese and fluent English. And the restaurant was in the building that a lot of defense contractors had their business development offices in. So, do people hang out where military bases? Do spies hang out where military bases are? Kind of. It happens. Uh, the writing style is a little bit different from Clancy in that the chapters are a lot shorter. You get chapters in this thing, they're 4 or 5 pages. And that actually kind of makes it move a lot quicker. So some of the criticism of Clancy, at least especially later in his career, was that he got really long-winded and he stopped paying attention to editors. This book does not suffer from that. And it's kind of written more with a look for the modern audience that just likes to move the story forward as fast as you can. So if you're looking for details about the military technology, you're not really going to see them in this book, mostly because everything's already known anyway. So I think it would be redundant for most folks, but uh, it does move the story faster than most Clancy books do, which is kind of cool in a way. Now back to the crash. Now one of the interesting things about the crash was that the outside of the stealth was covered in this stuff called RAM, or radar absorbing material. And anybody who was a spy on aircraft that were being developed at the time would have known you want some of the material that thing is made out of, because everybody at the time was trying to figure out how to build airplanes that had smaller and smaller and smaller cross section. Cross section is just a matter of saying how big does something look. So like, the side of a Jeep Wrangler is, a couple of square meters, right? The size of a 747 is the size of a 747. And when it appears on radar, it looks big. When that thing, which is old stealth technology now, appeared on radar, it was the size of a hummingbird. And that's really well known now. You could Google it. And the modern ones are a lot smaller. So that was a hummingbird. The modern ones are itty bitty by comparison on radar signature, which is impressive if you think about it for a minute. Now, so the spies that were in that area were actually out trying to say, "Ooh, I got to get a piece of that material, and can I get there?" Well, in the process of doing that, of course, there's other people around. Other people, might see somebody grabbing something. So of course now there's double murder, because the spy needs to escape. And of course there's UFO conspiracy theorists running around. And is it a plot to keep things secret from us? All that kind of fun stuff, which is kind of fun in the book. As this weird aside, though, one thing I noticed while reading this is everybody in Tom Clancy books, including like the junior FBI agents, all seem to be mysteriously really rich. It's like, so there's like a junior FBI agent in this one that's flying around with one of the senior FBI agents, and like, oh yeah, my family owns a horse ranch, and it's like it just gets kind of weird to me that like everybody in the books is either at least comfortable if not rich, which cracks me up in some ways. Maybe not you, but hey, if you disagree with me, drop me a line. That's what these videos are for, is a nice conversation sometimes. So now as this thing progresses, you've also got a plot for a defection in remember, Germany is still separated, so you got a plot for a defection from the communist side of Germany, which is interesting in and of itself, because now it's tied in with the stealth, and how do you balance all these things going on all over the world that all have to do with the Black Hawk, or the stealth, not the Black Hawk. The Black Hawk is a helicopter, and I know that. But it's a time where, also remember, this is height of the Cold War, so there's a time when even people pretending to be defectors may not. They may just be trying to get in the country and get information, right? So they could be double agents, they could be deep undercover agents, could be anything. So you've got all that kind of drama going on with that, which is cool. But the one thing I wanted to kind of read this one for is I'd never read any of the Tom Clancy books that were written after he passed away before this sort of journey that I'm going on. And there were all these rumors about Clancy and his career of, was he a government agent? Was he an asset? Was he being used to get the information out that the government wanted to have out there to kind of pump up recruiting or increase patriotism? Or influence, our enemies to say, hey, look, we're much better than you are, right? And kind of put that out in the world as sort of a thing. And also, hey, maybe it's uh, a morale tool, because morale for because of these books sometimes went up. I was on active duty reading some of these things, and they were great for active duty folks. They loved them. They were everywhere. But this one, it struck me as kind of one of those stories, like, are they trying to say, if there's something in there that maybe was still under Tom Clancy's name? Are they trying to get information out there? Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about UFOs lately. There's been a lot of discussion about disclosure and other stuff, and I found it interesting that this one involved Area 51. Um, was that just Mark decided to do something like that, or was that just, hey, somebody whispered to Mark, hey, it'd be kind of neat if you did something with Area 51? I don't know. It's a decent book. It really is. It's much better than I thought it was going to be. It does kind of come across in Clancy's style, the early days, not the later days when you stop listening to editors. So if I had to rate it, out of 10, I'd give it a solid 8. It's a good book. I really enjoyed it. I think you will too if you give it a shot. But there it is, Red Winter, set in 1985. I don't think it necessarily answers any questions about the was Tom Clancy being used as an asset, and is his name still being used? Unless you just wanted to gin up some interest in Area 51 or try to downplay that it might have been involved in aliens. It was not involved with aliens. Okay, I guarantee you. I've never been there, but I will bet good money that there's no aliens at Area 51. Despite what the ancient aliens guys say on every, no, they don't really say that, but some people believe Area 51 is still alien stuff. I believe it was experimental fighters. So it's a good book. Give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll see everybody on the next one, which is the Cardinal of the Kremlin. So that is an excellent one. See everybody on the next video.